6 a.m. here on the East Coast, a live look at the Capitol where all the action was last night. Good morning, everyone. I'm Audie Cornish. I want to thank you for waking up with me. And we're going to start by talking about the president's address to Congress and the nation. So looking out at a government dominated by Republicans, his speech was part victory lap, part campaign rally, and part roadmap for the next 4 years.
We have accomplished more in 43 days than most administrations accomplished in 4 years or 8 years, and we are just getting started.
As he said, that was just the beginning of what actually turned out to be a marathon speech, which ended up being just under an hour and 40 minutes long. That broke the record for the longest annual address to Congress. The president rattled off claims of slashing wasteful spending. He doubled down on threats to take Greenland and defended his tariffs, which have already started a trade war. The reception from Democrats, less than welcoming.
The chair now directs the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
Congressman Al Green of Texas was removed from the House chamber at the beginning of the speech. Other protests included waving signs. There were Democrats turning their backs on the president, some walking out, a slight which did not go unnoticed.
These people sitting right here will not clap, will not stand, and certainly will not cheer for these astronomical achievements. They won't do it, no matter what.
Joining me now to discuss, Sabrina Rodriguez, national political reporter for The Washington Post, Chuck Rocha, former senior advisor to Bernie Sanders' presidential campaigns, and Kristen Soltis Anderson, CNN political commentator and Republican strategist. So I want to bring to the group chat the question first of what we learned last night. I'm going to start with you, Sabrina, because people don't talk about this much, but this is also where a president is supposed to make requests to a Congress. Please pass this, please pass that. For a president who's done so much on his own, what are the kinds of things he wanted?
I mean, I think, Audie, one of the things that we saw very clearly is Trump was not talking too much to Congress here. Trump was not focused too much on asking, and more, it felt much more like a campaign rally. It felt much more, for those of us who spent time reporting on, his campaign last year, it felt much more like that, where he was touting all the things he wants to get done, all the things he already feels that he has gotten done. It was very much Donald Trump, the reality TV veteran.
Maybe taxes was the only thing we heard. That was a straight, please pass this.
And I would add, I think one of the things that is going to be frustrating and will be a rub with Republicans was that he talked about how he wants lawmakers to get rid of the Bipartisan CHIPS Act. That was one of Joe Biden's biggest victories.
Which was an investing into semiconductor manufacturing in the U.S.
So it was meant to increase U.S. production and increase our competitiveness against China. And again, bipartisan victory. So you could hear in the room Republicans were not cheering as loudly for that.
I want to talk about the idea of disruption, just kind of tackle that a little bit. Al Green being the one to stand up, shaking the cane and walking out. That was really the extent of it. I thought that there was going to be egg cartons waving around. That's not how it went down.
Members are engaging in willful and continuing breach of decorum, and the chair is prepared to direct the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order to the joint session.
We saw in the inauguration, Chuck, there was not some big outpouring. There was no big walking out. What did you make of last night?
Well, I wrote down here on my piece of paper so I wouldn't forget auction paddle resistance. Maybe not the best form last night.
Right, referring to them holding up those little signs.
Right. Yeah. It kind of threw off what people were saying, but I get the point. Democrats are desperate right now to see something as a pushback. I think Al Green, good brother from Houston, Texas. I'd like to shout out Al Green from Houston, Texas, who have been around a long time. But right now, Democrats are trying to find their footing. And what's wrong with Democrats, and Sabrina will laugh at me because she's been on the campaign trail with me, is that a lot of times my resistance looks different than Democrats, because Democrats are good about sending strongly worded memos when we want activists out there right now really fighting back.
You were not convinced by the paddles. They were trying to lean in your direction.
Because last night in the speech, it was more what Sabrina said. It's just grievance politics. Yeah. We've seen this before.
Kristen, I want to talk to you because you are a pollster, so you know kind of what voters are thinking about. What did you make of what he focused on last night? Extended riffs on Social Security, extended riffs on tariffs, extended riffs on trans athletes.
Yeah, he was really understanding that these speeches are largely watched by people who like the person who is in power.
You're not just saying that. The ratings bear that out. It's usually people who politically
very
lean
much
towards the
so.
party of
And that's
power.
why whenever we do these polls afterwards and we say, people who watch the speech, did you like the speech? They usually do. Because it's usually people who are inclined to like that president. What I did think was notable and what surprised me in the speech was he used two words that he even acknowledged haven't been used a long time, and that's balanced budget. Think about how difficult it is going to be for Congress to keep the government open, much less trying to balance a budget. And this is something where if you're talking about things you're going to ask Congress to do, he said, we haven't done this in 24 years. Right now, the Republican Party is made up of fiscal conservatives who would love nothing more than to make deep cuts, even to mandatory spending programs.
But you weren't listening to a speech that was talking about deep cuts, right?
No,
it was really a speech sort of saying, like, we're going after fraud, we're going after these other things. There was no, like, let me level with you, Paul Ryan era, like, we're going to cut things you like.
Right. And you also have on something like tariffs, this coalition where on the one hand, there's new people he's brought to the party that are like yes to tariffs. But if you look at the after polling post speech, there were a lot of people that liked the speech overall, but were a little more wary of the things he had to say on things like tariffs.
Well,
so
let me
this is
play a
gonna be
clip of that
divide.
because he spoke directly to farmers as he referenced tariffs, obviously a nod to the rural states where he's quite popular.
The tariffs will go on agricultural product coming into America, and our farmers starting on April 2nd. It may be a little bit of an adjustment period. We had that before when I made the deal with China, $50 billion of purchases, and I said, just bear with me, and they did. They did. Probably have to bear with me again, and this will be even better.
Okay, jump ball on little disturbance. What does that mean? We've been through this before.
Well, in the stock market, it meant like 650 points drop is a little disturbance. And there's one thing that gets his attention because he's surrounded by 13 billionaires in this administration that when you lose that much money in the stock market, it does get his attention.
I mean, I think for Trump, again, we're going back to what the style of this speech was. There was a lot of speculation yesterday about how much was he going to actually defend the tariffs. I don't frankly think that was a huge defense of tariffs. I think
like, we'll ride it out, basically.
He hit at the point and he moved through it. I mean, he's not going to admit it. It's something
but
that...
Kristen's point that people actually care about that, right? Like, that's where they start to feel like, wait a second, where is this going?
Yeah, this is where, you know, the speech had a number of moments where these are issues that Trump thinks he's got 80-20 on his side, right? 80% of Americans are with me, 20% are against me. Tariffs isn't one of those things. Tariffs is one that actually divides his own coalition more. So that's why it's such an interesting line. Trump from the beginning talked about, from the beginning of his speech, he sort of scene set talking about the mandate that he believes he has. So right now he's still in that grace period. I mean, we can talk plenty about what the impact of the tariffs are going to be, but it's going to take a little bit before it really hits home for folks.
Okay, stick around for the group chat.